What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Killing the Void podcast. I'm Andrew Parks. I'll be your host tonight. And, well, we're going to go over France's Yellow Jacket rally protesting and all that. It's been a while since I had my last episode. I've just been going through some personal things, and I'm trying to get back into podcasting. Anyways, please excuse the scruffy beard and it was the no shave November. I don't know if other guys do that or women. Maybe you don't shave your legs or armpits. I don't know. I don't really care what you do. Anyways, and the hair, I'm growing it out for my wedding in May 26th of next year, 2019. So I look a little scruffy in this episode if you're watching the YouTube podcast, but let's move on. So we have President Macron in France, and he took office at a pretty good. He had pretty good ratings. I believe it was over 60% ratings, which are pretty high. And he promised the people of France a lot of things, and he hasn't really delivered. He kind of went back on his word in a couple things, and so, what started this whole protesting thing, I feel like it started when all the UN leaders were in France, maybe like 5 or 6 weeks ago, I believe it was. And so it's been over a month now, but just barely. And he made a comment, him and the German Prime Minister, in regards to Trump. They kind of did a, what would you call it? Underhanded remark towards the United States and Trump, basically with smiles on their face, but jabbing Trump in the back with a knife. So, yeah, basically, so what happened was that all the UN leaders, they were there in France to commemorate the World War One, ending of the war and all that. So it was like a memorial type thing. And well, so what Macron did to Trump, he was basically given all the leaders gave their own speeches, but when it was Macron's turn, since it was hosted in France, he was the main speaker. And he basically was putting down nationalism, which we all know Trump came out about 2 months ago saying he was a nationalist. And a lot of the left-wing liberals, they believe that means Nazi when they hear nationalist, because the Nazi movement was a socialist nationalist party, and people mistake it. So there's some things that you guys need to know about nationalism. It usually means having pride in your own country, your own nation. It's in the word nationalism. And so instead of like having a religion, like being a Christian or Jew or Muslim, you're basically putting forth your country first. This is most commonly noted for a lot of big time people like George Washington, because he created, he was one of the founding fathers. And then we have people like Napoleon. We have people like Hitler too, so there's some bad guys. Then we have, in present day, we have the Chinese president. I believe it's called president. I don't know what Chinese politics. I don't know what they call their leader. I doubt it's an emperor. Anyways, it used to be an emperor. But right now we have Putin in Russia. He's a nationalist. And we have, within even the UK system, the Welsh people are nationalists. They're very proud of their heritage. And then we go to South America, and I believe the new president in Brazil is a nationalist. So we have all these people in the world. Some are for global agendas, basically like the one world order. So a lot of conspiracy theorists go into that whole thing, which I kind of do buy into, because eventually, our country is going to, not only our country, our world is going to have to work together, I believe, because I may not particularly buy the global warming agenda that the liberals have. I know it is a thing going on right now, and I know humans do have a footprint in global warming. But if you look at the history of the world, we always have had global warmings, which then turn into ice ages. It's this whole switching of the axes of the northern and southern poles. So this is, yeah, we're probably making it worse right now. And also with the crap they're spraying in the air, which they did come out and say they are spraying some type of aerosols in the air, but it's for the greater good, they're saying. Whether or not we believe that, that's up to you guys individually. Basically, they're saying is they're trying to geoengineer the weather. We have the rich United Emirates, the Arab Emirates in the Middle East, where they actually legitly make it rain like one day a week. I believe it's Wednesdays, but I could be mistaken. But they literally they have all this money because they're all princes from the oil in Saudi Arabia and the United Emirates, Arab Emirates. I'm sorry, that's a tongue twister for me. And so they actually do geoengineer the weather, and that's kind of like what we're having going on right now. And ever since they started that in the United States, we've had a horrible drought in California. Horrible, horrible drought. And I know we've also had some pretty bad storms on the east and southern Gulf of Mexico coast, and by Florida, New York, and all those places. But I don't know how. We always get hurricanes. That's never changed. It's just been kind of really, really bad lately. And then, but yeah, let's get back on topic because we're talking about the Yellow Jackets, and I kind of got a little off track. But basically, what I was trying to say is Macron, the president of France, he is anti-nationalism. He is a globalist. So he wants all the countries in the world to be one. He wants a council of elites. So that would be the United Nations, so to speak. And each UN person gets a vote on how the world is ran, so to speak, which is a dangerous thing because it might seem good on the outside. You have, let's say, 80 people all voting for the good and bad of the world, but who's controlling those 80 people? It always comes back to the money. You follow the money. That's in anything. If there's a crime, you follow the money, the paper trail. And that always leads back to the rich Jewish bankers, which now we're getting to a little bit more conspiracy theory, but it's pretty true if you look at it. There's only a few giant corporations in the world, and they kind of run things. You got the oil monopolies, you have the banking monopolies, and then you got the Hollywood monopolies, which is your entertainment and news media. And then you got, let's see, we got oil, and now we're starting to get into the water. A lot of people don't know that the globalist UN leaders are the rich people are buying up all these natural springs, all the land with natural springs, because water is going to become an issue in the future with the growing population of people and the droughts going on around the world since they've been geoengineering the weather. So, and you don't have to take my word for it. You could watch the episode on Vice News, which is a liberal documentary news channel, and I really like them. And I'm an independent, by the way. I'm not a Republican or a Democrat. So I'm going to try to be very fair on both sides. And they did a really good piece on talking about how all the rich people, that the new oil is water. So if you're going to do an investment for this Christmas, invest in water. All right. So Trump says he's a nationalist. He gets majorly flamed on the all the news channels except for Fox News. And Fox News, I feel like they do they do some fake news sometimes. But they're not as bad as the liberal news sites, and um, that's trying to be me in the middle of the road. But I think mostly they're fair, mostly, but they do have their own agendas as well. So you can't always trust Fox News. You're gonna want to do your own research, guys. But they're the only ones that didn't pick on Trump for saying he's a nationalist. And I'm a nationalist. I have no problem saying that. And I believe more people in the world are nationalists, but they don't want to come out and say it because they don't want their friends to hate them. Because there's this whole political agenda, the whole, oh God, what is it called? It's on the tip of my tongue. Everybody's so scared to speak their mind. They pussyfoot around because of political correctness. That's the word. Everybody's so worried about falling into this category of being politically correct, and now you can't even be a comedian and talk about stuff. Uh, I have gay friends. I have a gay roommate. I have a gay cousin, a lesbian cousin, and if comedians want to, like Kevin Hart, just the other day, he was gonna do the some type of award show. I don't know if it was the Grammys. I don't know what the hell it was, but they came back in like 9 years ago. He made some comedy joke about if his son was gay, he just wouldn't allow him to be gay and stuff like that. And now he can't even do the show. uh, I don't understand this whole political correctness thing going on, and they're really up Trump's butt too about the type of stuff he says. And I feel like Trump is doing a good job at breaking that barrier slowly but surely. He's kind of invulnerable to impenetrable. He doesn't care what people say about him. Like the whole Stormy Daniels thing, he admit he slept with her, and he just doesn't care what the news says. Well, he does because he gets his feelings hurt. So let me readjust what I just said. He does care what people say about him. He hates people picking on him, but he also just keeps steaming ahead. He lets it hit him. He bites back, and then he moves on. So the people aren't used to that. The liberals aren't used to that. They're usually used to people coming out, apologizing, and then quitting their jobs. And that's what they want Trump to do. But that's not going to happen. Anyways, so we have Macron that's giving Trump shit. And then we have the German Prime Minister. What is her name? Angela Merkel or whatever? I don't even know. That nasty hag. And I'm not saying that to be a anti-feminist. I'm saying it because she makes me sick with their policies. She's really done her country bad. Really, really bad for Germany. I feel sorry for those people. They'll probably all be speaking. They'll probably all be converted into Muslims in the next like 20, 30 years. Their whole country is full of people, and so is France. I watched a video the other day of the protests, and then a lady after the protests, she went down to a market where the protests hadn't reached that sector of town, and she went down to the markets, and there was literally just trash all over. It's not the Paris that we've known 10 years ago and further back. Now it looks like a third world country, and even when you're booking a trip to France, they tell you that, okay, when you get there, it's not the same Paris that you may remember or may see on TV. It's a lot more dangerous. So a lot of the people in France are very upset about this because, and it wasn't just this president, Macron, it was the president before him that has let a lot of immigrants into their country. And they're not all just Middle Easterns. I'm not attacking Middle Easterns. I'm not attacking Muslims. But I'm attacking a subgroup within the Muslim culture that are both they're even white. There's whites, there's blacks, there's Middle Easterns, and they're basically getting free subsidies, free housing, free food, and they're not assimilating into the French culture. And this is one of the major issues that every country's having with taking on these refugees from Africa and from the Middle East is these people aren't assimilating. They don't want to become French citizens or American citizens in the way we believe citizens should act. They want the citizen titleship, but that's as much as they want. They don't want to follow the rules of the country that they live in. They don't want to abide by the cultures. They don't want to learn more about the cultures that they're now moving into. And they want to keep their own culture. They want to keep their own Sharia law government. So let's say if let's put it this way. Let's say you're in a ghetto, a Muslim ghetto that France has set up. So it's a little section, and they don't let white French people into that section, or you'll get beaten, raped, or mugged, or whatever. Let's say, so now you're in this section that's run completely by the Muslim immigration people, and let's say one of those people, one of those guys that lives in that ghetto is gay, and he gets caught by another guy that's in there. Let's say two guys get caught having sex. Well, what they're going to do is they're not going to report this to the French police. What they're going to do is they're going to hold their own Sharia law court within that ghetto. They're going to basically probably stone these men to death. And, and the French police, they're just going to chalk it up to a mugging or something of that nature, and they're never even going to look into it because they're scared to go into these ghettos. So this is something that the French people are scared of, the German people are scared of, the Swedish people are scared of. They can't even walk alone at night. The women, they're afraid of being raped. It's all over the news. So this is one of the issues. But something that Macron did that made the whole country hate him, that united his country actually, was the gas tax. And this is something that I live in California, and I feel for those people in France, because we have a horrible gas tax. And we had the option this last just a couple months ago, or not even 2 months ago, we had the option to repeal this gas tax that our governor passed behind our backs, Governor Brown, and the liberal Californians are so stupid, and they passed it again. They let it go through. So now we're stuck with this stupid gas tax. And me, in my profession, I'm self-employed. I'm a farrier, so I drive around to different horse ranches and I shoe horses. And, half my job is being in a vehicle and traveling from point A to point B to point C to point D and home. And I can't even... half my money seems to go to gas and food. And then it's like... and then you have bills at the end of the month. And then it's like, well, how much money do I have? I mean, like me personally, I love audiobooks. So that's basically all I can afford is audiobooks at the end of the month. And so I'm stuck, riding my bike, listening to an audiobook, or doing chores around the house, listening to an audiobook. And that's basically, my audiobooks are my relief, and that's all I can afford. And, I can't afford to go to Paris. I can't afford to go to Italy. I can't afford to go to the next state over. I can't go to Oregon because I don't have a lot of money. So I get what these people in France are doing. I saw lots and lots of interviews before doing this podcast episode. I read the reports. I read the essays on what's going on in France. And that's what those people are complaining about too, is they can barely afford food because the gas prices are so high, and they need they need gas for their vehicles because they don't just work across the street from their house. They have to get in a vehicle and they have to drive to work, just like California. California is probably bigger than France. I don't know how big France is, but if you guys actually look at the map, California is huge. So we have to drive a lot in California, and it hurts us. Just a couple states over, um, to the gallon of gas is like $1 cheaper than California. It's ridiculous. And I know the French people, what are they paying? Like $8, $9 a gallon? It's ridiculous. And so basically President Macron came out, he pushed this tax bill through. Then these protests started happening. It's been 4 weekends in a row. We just came out of one protest weekend. And it wasn't as exciting this weekend as the past 3 weekends. They're losing a little bit of steam. That's natural with protesting. But what's going on is the protests are spreading to other countries around France. So Macron, he first he said, "Well, guys, I don't understand your issue. If you can't afford gas in your own vehicle, then carpool." Well, that did not go over well. That did not go over well. That's a very rude statement to tell people. It basically shows that you have no sympathy for your people that you're governing over, that you have no emotions for them. So Macron made a big mistake there. So then the protests got violent. Then we had a couple deaths. And then Macron came out and said, "Okay, I'm going to freeze this tax bill, and then we'll go back over it and we'll make adjustments." Well, it got even worse. So now we're in the third weekend of the protests, and then he finally pulls it all out. So he takes it all out. He says, "Okay, we're done with this tax bill. It's gone, guys. Now please go back home. Let's get this country back in order." And then we have the fourth week, and they're saying, "No, that's not enough. Something's got to change. Something has to change in France. Now we want you to step down as president." And now we're in a stalemate. Now Macron has more law enforcement. He has more of their version of the National Guard. I don't know what it's called in France, but armed forces. And they're even driving around in UN tanks, it looks like. Those UN cars, those armored vehicles that look like tanks. And, Macron's very, very into being a United Nations guy. He really wants the global agenda to spread. He wants all cultures in his country. He wants France to lose their own culture and adapt everyone's culture. And this is not going over well. So now the Yellow Vests are saying, "Okay, guys, we caved in. What are your demands? What are you guys wanting?" Well, like I said earlier, they want a better quality of life. But firstly, what they want is they want stricter borders. So like what Trump has. They want the immigrants that are coming over to adapt to the French culture, not vice versa. They want them to join the melting pot of the French culture and not have their own ghettos and do their own Sharia law stuff. So that's one section of it. So basically they want their leadership to be more hardcore on immigration like Trump is in the United States. So that's a big old spit in the face to Macron, since Macron can't stand Trump. Then we have number 2, which is they want lower taxes. And everyone wants lower taxes. And France is known as a very liberal country. So for them to want lower taxes, to turn from liberal to more conservative in that thinking, in that regards of taxation, means that they want more of the power back on them and less of the power on the government. So, and this is something that Macron can't stand because he wants all the power. That's a one world order agenda, is to for the government, the politicians in power, to have power over the people. Basically, we'll give you food, we'll give you shelter, we'll give you internet, we'll give you water, we'll give you warmth, but you do what we say, and you can't do what we don't want you to do, so to speak. And how they rule over people is through taxation. Because when the more tax money they get, the politicians, the more they could get the people, the civilians, stuck on welfare programs. And now we come to the third bracket of what the Yellow Jackets protesters want. And this is something that they can't do. They can't have their cake and eat it at the same time, so to speak. Uh, so in bracket number 2, they want to pay lower taxes, but in bracket number 3 is they want all these welfare programs and more like free internet, food stamps, and all these government paid for programs, and you can't get that if you don't pay a bunch of taxes. So you guys, I don't know if this is a bargaining tactic, uh, and they just made this third bracket up because they know that they can't get everything they want. But if they come to the table and they're doing a deal with the French government, then they say, okay, well, let's leave the third bracket off because we don't really need that. But what we do need is we need lower taxes, and we need all tougher stance on immigration. So if you guys do that, we're happy, and the protests are going to stop. And like I said before, and they also want Macron to step down. So his approval rating, I believe, is down now past 17%. So he's almost down like 50%, his approval rating. So he's very well hated now in that country. He's a pariah, and all these deaths happening because he's getting tougher on the Yellow Jackets. That's not helping him any at all. And he's folding. He's folding. So, and now the people are seeing him fold, and it's giving them more power. They're saying, a lot of the reports are saying that the Yellow Vests are going to be protesting all through Christmas, all through the month of December, because they can't even afford Christmas presents or a Christmas dinner. So why not protest? Because they can't afford to be at home with their family having a fun night, so they might as well be protesting. So I want to say this too. My heart is with France because I see that going all through Facebook and social media. My heart is with France, and I hope you French people listening see that America is with you, and I hope you don't. When this is all over, I hope you guys don't hate America like you guys usually do in the past. I don't know how to say this in a nicer way, but I know the French people have a lot of loathing for Americans, as do the French Canadians. You can't even go to a French Canadian town without them rejecting you as a customer. They'll tell you to go to the next town or whatever. Very, very rude. I did have a French girlfriend. She was a foreign exchange student for a while, and very lovely, very fun. She told me a lot about the French culture and everything. And the poor girl, she was a model, and when she came here, and she got hooked on eating French fries. She loved American French fries. And she thought it was the funniest thing because they're called French fries. And she was from France, and she ended up getting super big. She bloated up really bad. She probably gained like 40, 60 pounds. And she got back home, and her parents chewed her out because she was fat, and they sent her to a fat camp. And she ended up losing all her weight, but I felt bad. I just remember that. But we have a bad, so France helped us when we became the United States. and then we help them in their world wars. We basically saved their asses. And then we've kind of gone into the war against terrorism together. But after that, France has just hated us. I don't know why. A lot of the French culture hates Americans. You go out there, I don't know why. Um, so just know that we're with you guys, and please drop that hate on America because we're just human beings like you guys, and we're trying to get along. And we're struggling too. We got stupid governments. We got to pay the taxes all the time. At the end of the year, we're poor, just like you guys. So just know that I personally hope you guys get a better president next term. I hope Macron steps down, but I doubt that's going to happen. I really do. I doubt that's going to happen. My predictions for France, I believe that these rallies are going to dwindle down. I believe it's going to get colder and colder into the winter. Although France, to give them credit, the French people have a really, really good history on revolts within their country. They have overturned governments, so they really could stick to their guns and really maybe overturn this government. So I'm not counting that out fully. I just don't see it really fully coming into fruition. So my heart is with you guys, and I hope you guys get what you want, and I hope the rest of Europe wakes up, and I hope a lot of the liberals wake up to what's going on. Because if let's say when Trump's done being president, we get another liberal president, which will probably happen, and taxes go up, and more welfare programs pop up, there's going to be a breaking point. There's going to be a point where you guys say, wow, more than half my income is going to taxation. And I'm a doctor, or I'm a pharmacist, or I'm a lawyer, and I used to live a really nice, comfortable life. I used to have wine every night with my steak dinner, my mashed potatoes, my expensive French bread. And now I'm eating hamburger helper, and I'm drinking a glass of water out of the faucet. And there's gonna be a tipping point when taxation's gonna hit everyone except for the elite. Now, you do have to know though, you also can't overtax the elite, because if you overtax them, they're gonna shut down businesses. Then that means people are gonna go unemployed. So it's a really, really tricky game that our government has to play with these rich corporations. And something that France, also the Yellow Jackets, now that I remember right, reading earlier, they want their small businesses to prosper, and they want to kick out giant chain markets and restaurants and fast foods. They want the little guys to succeed again. So if something like that happened in America, I believe that would be a good thing too. Yes, food's expensive. That's why we all go shopping at like Walmart, and other items are expensive, but it's killing the little guys. We all go to Starbucks, major chain, but it's killing the small coffee shops, and their coffee really isn't even that good anymore. It's really watered down or bitter. Really, if you think about it, a lot of you people are just buying the Starbucks brand and taking selfies with it. You're just buying this drink not because you really love the drink, but because there's some type of social media gratification where you're taking a selfie with Starbucks and you think people are going to think you're more cool. So, there's things like that. So you guys, I really hope that everybody starts to wake up. I don't want the left to hate the right, and I don't want the right to hate the left, because we really need each other. and no civil wars goes good for any country. And eventually, we don't want to end up like Venezuela. I did a podcast earlier on Venezuela. Please go listen to that podcast. They're literally there's literally no food in any of their markets. They're literally eating fish skeletons. They're the restaurants that do have food. They're throwing out their food to the wild dogs and the people, and these people are eating like fish heads and skeletons remains, and then they're eating dogs, because and they're eating rats. A little sack of flour costs like $6,000. So it's crazy, and nobody wants their country to turn into that. So, and then you have these countries that are turning into that, and like South Africa. I did an episode also on that, and or they're stealing white farmers' lands without paying them any type of money, and killing them and raping them, and it's crazy. This world's crazy, and we need to learn to love each other. Otherwise, you're going to have these little crazy countries like Venezuela and South Africa. They're going to lose ties with America, which everyone wants to come to America. Everyone wants to be in the land of the free. Everyone wants to be in a rich country like America. And yet, they're breaking their ties with America. They're spitting in America's face, basically saying, we don't need you, because Big Daddy China over here is going to come in and help us. Well, China's going to come in and help you guys, and then before you know it, you're going to be owned by China. They're going to say, okay, we helped you guys. Now, this is what we want from you. And we want 80% of what your country wealth is. So this is how much money you have to pay us every year. And now you're basically a sub-country of China. So they're really, really smart. Chinese government is very, very smart, very, very sneaky. They know how to invest money very, very well. They're right up there with the Jewish bankers, which is the Western civilization, the Europe and the Americas and all that. So, and then you have the French, or not the French, then you have the Russian bankers coming in now, and they're trying to start their own thing as well. But they're also friends with China, so it helps them. So, anyways, these yellow vest guys, they say they're going to keep going. I'm really proud of them for sticking their guns and getting that tax repealed, that gas tax repealed. And I hope Macron learns something about, throwing filth at Trump. Everything he said has come back to bite him in the butt. So, anyways, I wish you guys a Merry Christmas if you don't hear back from me before then. I hope to do another podcast, but anyways, I hope you had all a nice Thanksgiving, and I hope you have nice holidays. Thank you, and have a good night.